All right, we're going to do something a little different today. We are diving deep into an alternate reality for, one of the most iconic TV shows of all time, Friends. And look, this isn't some small change. We're talking about one single decision that could have completely rewritten the entire emotional core of this series.
So, what is that choice? What if Ross Geller never left his girlfriend Julie? Seriously, what if he chose that stable, supportive relationship over the chaotic will they won't they roller coaster with Rachel? Let's really get into this. Because you have to understand, this was never just a choice between two people for Ross. No, it was a choice between two totally different futures. On one side, you've got all that messy, complicated, but let's be honest, unforgettable history with Rachel. And then on the other, you have certainty, a stable, supportive, and what looks like a perfect match with Julie.
So come on, let's step into this alternate timeline. Let's imagine a world where Ross gets back from China and he makes that one single different choice. He stays with Julie, the partner who, on paper at least, is absolutely perfect for him. Now, here's where the ripple effect gets really interesting. In the show, we all know it's Rachel's jealousy over Julie that lights the fuse, right? That's what forces her to finally confront her feelings for Ross. But in this reality, Ross doesn't break up with Julie. He never makes that mad dash to tell Rachel how he feels. That little spark between them, it just never gets the oxygen it needs to become a flame. It just fizzles out. So what does this do to Rachel's entire story? I mean, she still grows, for sure. She still becomes this amazing career-driven woman. But that central emotional anchor of her life, the Ross and Rachel saga, it's just gone. And this table just lays it out so perfectly. Instead of jealousy and that sense of urgency being her catalyst, it shifts entirely to her career and her independence. Her whole romantic arc is suddenly way less central. Maybe she finds other, more stable partners. Who knows? But the core tension of the show, that constant unresolved feeling with Ross, it gets replaced by the absence of a defining love story. She still becomes who she's meant to be, but the journey there is completely different. Okay, now let's flip it and look at Ross. With Julie, he gets the one thing he almost never has: consistency. There's no drama, no jealousy spirals. I mean, it sounds so much healthier, right? But this is where we run into a really fascinating paradox. Here's the thing, and it's so crucial. Roz's character is forged in the fire of conflict. His entire relationship with Rachel was driven by imperfection, and it forced him, kicking and screaming, to confront his own insecurities. Julie, on the other hand, she just offers stability and support. She doesn't challenge him in that same uncomfortable way. So the outcome isn't that messy, necessary personal growth. It's potential stagnation, all clouded by those feelings that never get resolved. And that right there is the key. Those feelings, that big what if, they wouldn't just disappear into thin air. You know they wouldn't. There would always be these quiet, lingering moments between Ross and Rachel. A shared look, a joke that hangs in the air just a second too long. It's a tension that doesn't blow up, but it simmers into this quiet, emotional distance. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. If that central emotional engine of the show is just gone, what does that even mean for Friends itself? Well, it means we lose the very moments that made the show legendary in the first place. The impact is just staggering. Think about it. That dramatic airport scene never happens. The entire "we were on a break" saga? Poof, gone. All the emotional confessions, the rain-soaked second chances, that long, messy, and ultimately earned journey to the end, it's all just erased from the timeline. The show becomes quieter, safer, and honestly so much less powerful. I think this idea sums it up perfectly. If Ross and Julie stayed together, we'd lose the chaos, but we'd also lose the magic. You see, that choice doesn't just remove the conflict, it removes the very thing that made their story so unforgettable. So, after going through this whole alternate reality, what's the big takeaway here? It really boils down to a fundamental truth about our relationships and what we actually value in them. Let's call it the paradox of perfection. It's this idea that sometimes choosing the stable, healthy, perfect on paper option might actually rob you of the very experiences that lead to real growth and a deeper sense of meaning in your life. Because when you get right down to it, Friends was never about people making the right choices. It was about them making real, human, complicated choices. And this whole thought experiment just brilliantly illustrates the core lesson. It's the relationships that push us, that challenge us. Yeah, the difficult and imperfect ones. Those are the ones that truly define who we become.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Look, Ross and Julie, they probably could have worked. It would have been fine. But Ross and Rachel, they changed everything. It really makes you wonder in your own life, what do you value more? The relationship that's easy or the one that transforms you?